Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special edition of Talk Talking Thursday. We have a royal rumble of serious intellectual giants talking about the issues affecting our country, about current events, and about geopolitics. We are going to go around the room. In the room, obviously, is my co-host, Mr. Tulip from beautiful Canada. And we are going to go around the room after Mr. Tula tells us about a little thing about Canada. We will go around the room and we will introduce ourselves. Most of these folks you have known, you have spoken with, you know personally. But if you are new to the platform, we say welcome and we'll introduce ourselves and we will begin this. Mr. Tula.
Yeah, welcome everybody. My name is George Kanentule. I'm the co-host of this special edition today. And today we're just going to be looking at the issue if George Weah deserves a second chance. And we're going to make this show is going to remain about George Weah, not even the opposition, not the CPP. We're just going to remain the domain of Weah. And we're going to dissect his present tenure and if he really deserves to lead the Liberian people past 2023. So I want to say welcome to all of you out there in Facebook land and YouTube. It's going to be a nice time. I have a lot of interesting folks here today. And so we got one sedition, two sedition. All right, guys, let's go ahead.
Okay, and we're going to go around the room. We're going to start with Mr. Is that Geah?
That's Goya.
Goya, okay. Go ahead, introduce yourself to our new friends who may have not met you before.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Cesar Goya. I am one of the educational analysts for Focus on Liberia. My daytime job is I am a licensed high school math teacher here in the state of Minnesota.
Excellent, excellent. And Mr. Sharif.
Mohammed Sharif, current resident of Pennsylvania. I am an alumni of the Waplo Institute, a political analyst here. I'm focused on Liberia. I'm very happy to be here.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. And we're going to save the best for last. So we're going to go to our how do I call him? I don't want to call him by his name. I want to call him the Plato of Focus on Liberia. Go ahead, Chief.
Well, again, I'm happy to be here. Very excited. My name is Wilmot Cooney. Live in the city of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. I am a part of the experiment at grassroots governance, a strong sympathizer of the Congress for Democratic Change, a strong supporter of President George Weah, and chief political analyst for Focus on Liberia. I'm happy to be here again with these great Liberians with whom I've had the opportunity to share my views. Thank you.
Okay, the last but not the least, we say Ms. Cole or Cole. Am I pronouncing your name right, Ms. Family?
Of course not.
Okay, Cole, is that how you pronounce it?
Okay, so there's two ways to pronounce it. It's Cole or Paul.
Okay.
My name isn't K-O-U, so it's not Cole. It's Cole.
It's Cole.
So that's what I spell with an A, Cole.
Okay.
And yes, I'm a wife, a mother, and a lifelong political activist.
Excellent, excellent. Now we're going to go right to the point. The topic today is, does President George Weah deserves a second term? I'm going to give each of you a minute to give me a thesis or reason why George Weah deserves a second term. I know we're going to go around and you are going to tell me why he doesn't, but for the time being, we're going to start with you, Mr. Goya. Let me know emphatically, why does George Weah deserve a second term?
Well, I'm going to say, with all due respect, President George Weah does not deserve a second term because the social contract the Liberian people signed with him when they voted him into office has been breached so many times over and over so many sectors of the of Liberian life that he has not lived up to either the hope for change, because the hope is missing, or the change for hope, because both the change and the hope are missing in that equation. So emphatically, President George Manuel Weah does not deserve a second term because he's breached the social contract that was signed between him and the Liberian people.
Sharif.
Yeah, so George Weah does not deserve a second term for this reason. He has proven incapable and incompetent to lead the country. And so, as the previous speaker mentioned, the social contract. The problem is George Weah does not understand social contract. So you'll be speaking above him when you talk about a social contract. So all the Liberian people need to do and say on that election day, when that time comes, is that, you know, we're going to fire you. You can go back to whatever you were doing before. And so it's time for a new order. I don't know what that new order is going to look like. I am not optimistic in the opposition either. So we're looking at a very tenuous and confusing situation come 2023, because I have no confidence in the opposition either. But certainly George Weah does not deserve a second term.
Ms. Famula, is it Mrs. Famula or Ms. Famula? Does George Weah deserve a second chance? If yes, why? And if not, why not?
So I don't believe that he deserves a second term for all of the reasons that have been listed. He has every right to run for a second term, but I don't believe that he is up to the task, or that he's shown the seriousness required in leadership. The president doesn't have to know everything. The president doesn't even have to be the smartest person in the world. But the president needs to know what he doesn't know, and needs to be able to employ and fire people who are not doing what the Liberian people need them to do. And since Mana took over, I mean, I knew that he wasn't a finance minister. I knew that he wasn't a public works minister. I knew that he wasn't a health minister or many other things. But I thought, as a citizen of the country, he understood what the executive branch of government needed as far as leadership. And I thought, the Liberian people gave him an opportunity to find the most competent people to advance the cause of lifting Liberia up from the ashes of this war and many, many generations of despair. And President Weah, not because he doesn't know everything, but because he has not employed the people who are capable of doing the things that need to be done. And for that reason, and that reason alone, I think he needs to go.
Okay, Mr. Tule, does President George Manuel Weah deserve a second term? Yes or no? If not,
I thought you were supposed to go to Kuni first. You and I,
sir. I'm asking you, do you have an opinion, or are you going to be a co-host without an opinion, as I do?
No, you already have an opinion. Your opinion is well stated, is documented. Not today. It doesn't matter. Your opinion is you cannot unbias you because we are on another show. No. Anyways.
Okay, so let me go to the Plato of this platform. The Aristotle and the Plato of this platform. Give me a reason why President Weah deserve a second term. If not, why not?
Well, we are in unfamiliar territory. George Weah is in a familiar spot. This man, throughout his life, he has always been doubted. He's been underrated. He's been underappreciated, especially by the Liberian people. Every abilities of his has been questioned from time to time. But he continued to prove the Liberian people wrong. There are immense economic challenges in our country, but the Weah administration is taking the right step to right the ship. There are developmental projects that are going out throughout the country. The economy is beginning to experience some form of economic stability. Our people are living in peace. I mean, Liberians are going about their daily activities. They have a president who has a deep sense of humility, a deep sense of peace. And this experiment at grassroots governance is something that is gaining hold in our country. And when that time comes, the Liberian people will make a
Mr.
choice.
Kone, the question is, does he deserve a second chance? A second term?
Even with 5 voices here, they can't even allow them 1 voice to land.
But yeah, but you have a lot of time to enumerate.
I've not even used 1 minute. You interrupted. I've not even used 1 minute of my time.
He asked you a specific question.
I will not answer the question based on your preference. Just
All
know
right,
that.
Okay, no problem, Mr. Kone.
Yeah, I will answer the question based on my preference, not yours. So what I'm saying is that all of these things that are happening, economic stability that is emerging, developmental programs that are going out in the country, the peace that the people are enjoying, George, we are definitely deserve a second term. And when the time comes, the Liberian people will make a choice between this experiment at grassroots governance or the intelligentsia misrule that has devastated our country in terms of development over the decades. That's an easy choice for the people.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tule, the next question belongs to you.
All right. The next question. I will reserve because we're.
No, I mean, for you to ask, it is your turn to ask the question.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I'm saying. I will go I will start with Mr. Sharif first. What is the one thing that will earn President Weah or 2-term victory? What do you think? Because as much as we want to just enumerate, or from those in the opposition want to just highlight what they believe are his negatives, if you were looking at it from the other perspective, from the other side of the coin, what do you think would be the one thing that will make him be electable to the Liberian people? One thing.
Well, if you ask me to be an informer, sort of play the role of an informal advisor to Weah, something you're really not going to do. But if there's something that he needs to do, right?
Yeah.
He needs to ensure that the country is well governed. I know that sounds general, but look at what's going on, right? So you had COVID. Let's start with let's start with COVID. In the midst of COVID, George Weah flew to France, to Paris, to go on vacation, leaving the Liberian people dying. He has to show compassion. And you asked my opinion as to what are the things that he needs to do. He needs to show compassion. He needs to show leadership. So leadership is very important in moments of crisis. This is the most challenging time, one of the most challenging moments in Liberian history. Although I did not support Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, but during the Ebola crisis, she did not travel, right? So she stayed in Liberia until after Ebola and then started to travel. George Weah had the first opportunity to travel, left the country. He abandoned the ship. You can't do that. In recent times, what we have seen the recrudescence of, mobs and, protests, right? These protests are becoming unbecoming, for lack of a better word, right?
The question was, one thing that you think he can do that will improve his chances of being elected in 2023?
He has to show leadership. He has to show leadership, which he has not shown.
Okay, we come to Mr. Kone. Mr. Kone, in your view, one thing you think that Mr. Weah needs to do that will greatly improve, assure his chances of re-election in 2023?
Oh, he can continue the infrastructure development, the road construction. Not only one thing, he's doing a lot of them. He can continue the road construction. He can continue rural electrification. He can continue the rural housing program. He can continue the support for education, tuition free at public colleges, the education policy of making colleges and all of these institutions free. He can continue.
Yeah, but
the
Mr. Cullen,
improvement.
we agree that all these things are going on. But what would be one thing, in your view, that if done well, will set him apart from his rivals or from his competition in 2023?
Road construction and energy. Those are the two things I think that are very core to the development of Liberia.
So you okay? So infrastructure development. All right. CSA, let me
make a point though.
All right.
Let me make a point. I mean, my brother here just mischaracterized the president's visit to France, talking about vacation. The president, in the middle of the crisis, took leadership, went to our partners, development partners, saw assistance. As a result of that visit, vaccines and other things that were donated, the COVID situation in Liberia is now under control in relative terms. So it wasn't a vacation, Brother Sherry. That was a visit in search of solution to the problem the country was facing, and we are happy that the president
was the primary reason for the visit a search for solution to the problems.
Exactly, and this is why he got the help he needed from France. And the COVID situation in Liberia now, which was at an alarming rate when he made that visit, the COVID situation is reducing, and that's how leaders behave.
All right, CSA, can you go ahead?
Yeah. I hope you can give me the chance to touch on that last about some piece about education, because I'm an educator, so I hope to get on that. But to answer your question, real quick, what would George Weah need to do to ensure a second term victory? I would say he needs to recognize that leadership is an act. It's an action verb, not a title. And until George Weah can change the input, so I'm a math teacher. You got to function. What you put into that function, what comes from the domain, what goes in, determines what comes out. Garbage in, garbage out. Until George Weah can change the input, which requires him changing himself and changing the people he has in leadership to make sure that they are working for the Liberian people and not for a select group, he would not get a second term. If he wants to get a second term, he needs to make sure that his domain, his playing field, people he got to put into government, that he is changing who he puts into that function. Now, I need to touch on what my papi, Mr. Kuni said about free education. I like how it's changed from free education to tuition-free education, because tuition-free is different from a free education. I know for a fact that the cost of attending public universities in Liberia has risen astronomically because fees have been charged by these public institutions to make up for what the George Weah government did not make up for when they announced a tuition-free university. So tuition-free university, yes, is there, but it's no longer free education. It's become more expensive education because it was not well thought of. So this experiment, and as a scientist, because I'm an engineer by training, this experiment has failed. It need to be completely taken apart and restructured, revamped with a new mindset. So he keeps talking about this grassroots experiment. As a scientist, as an engineer, we've created so many things that stay in the lab, never make it to market because it is not fit for market. So this experiment has to be taken back into the lab because it's not fit for market.
All right, Mrs. Fambule, or we call in the Western professional, they say Miss Fambule. That doesn't mean we took her husband away. He's still there. He's right in the house. Miss Fambule, what would be your one thing that Weah needs to do to secure a second term election?
I think that question is I think you're asking the wrong question. I think the premise of the question is a bit flawed. I can't answer that. I mean, too much has happened. And one of the things that Weah has exposed, and maybe this could be the answer to the question, but one of the things that Weah has exposed more dramatically than we were able to see during President Salih's tenure is the complete incompetence and dysfunction of the legislature and the judiciary. So President Sirleaf was able to mask this dysfunction because she was surrounded by more competent people. So you didn't need the legislature to say, hey, this act, this law is this program you're pushing is illegal, it's unconstitutional. You didn't have to do that when President Sirleaf was president, because she had, Counselor Cooper and many very sound lawyers on her team. Christiana Todd, you had brilliant minds on her team. Regardless if you liked President Sirleaf or not, there were a lot of competent people on her team that understood constitutional law and knew what the president could and couldn't do. It seems that Weah's term has exposed that in the absence of a competent executive, the legislature and the judiciary do not function as a check and balance. And this is the most damning thing that has been brought to light. And we should all be terrified, because what is essentially happening right now, what is being exposed with an incompetent executive, is we realize that our country is being run by people who do not understand the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. It's complete chaos and dysfunction. And if the citizens were competent, they would drag all of these people and perform citizens' arrests. But the citizens themselves don't even understand the gravity of what's going on in the country.
Okay,
I'm going to give you
Miss Famula, let me somebody pushing back on you what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
We say that the subverting of the Liberian National Legislature was an act perfected by Madame Sirleaf. That she set the stage for the dysfunction that we see today.
That's absolutely stupid. She doesn't appoint legislatures.
No. It's not about appointing.
It doesn't matter. Listen to me. Let me say this. I'm not going to address that. It doesn't make any sense. Lawmakers are elected. They're empowered by the citizens. And if they're taking bribes from presidents or not taking bribes from presidents or not understanding their function, you cannot blame the executive for that. They have a completely independent role. And no one is to blame for the dysfunction of the legislature but they themselves. Period. And I'm not blaming Weah for their dysfunction. What I'm saying is his dysfunction is amplifying their dysfunction because they are not able to put him in check. They have failed to do so. If they were functioning, many things wouldn't happen. I'm going to give one example. Bali Island. So in December of 2018, December 17, 2018 to be exact, George Weah, it is on the eMansion website. You can look at this, Front Page Africa. All the news outlets cover this. He signed the Bali Islands law or act into law. This passed the House. This passed the Senate. To this day, as I speak to you, on the 19th of August, 2021, there is no handbill for the Bali Island Act. The executive mansion published that the president signed this. It is then supposed to go to foreign ministry per the Constitution, and there's supposed to be a handbill. That's what makes something a law. That has not happened. I suspect that the reason that did not happen is because the act is unconstitutional. George Weah and the entire House and Senate signed a bill that gives land ownership to Indian people who are not citizens of the Republic of Liberia. A 5th grade student in Liberia should know that that is not legal. That's not constitutional.
Okay.
And no law passed by anyone supersedes the Constitution. And I suspect that's the reason someone at Foreign Ministry was like, or someone somewhere saw this and said, hey, don't print the handbill, it's unconstitutional. Probably whispered in the ear, the whole thing died down.
Oh,
but
but
I'm bringing this up just to say, if Weah, to answer your original question, sorry, not to hog the show, I just wanted to give that example. It's just one of hundreds. But if Weah wanted to do something to redeem himself, it would be to hold the legislature to book, bring charges against the legislature to the Supreme Court to reverse some of the nonsense that they've done, like paying themselves to usurp the function of the executive branch of government.
All right, Mr. Gamer, go ahead, sir.
Yes, Mr. Family, I am aghast from what I'm hearing you that the legislative body, the executive will sign a law and the foreign ministry takes upon itself to say we are going to veto a law that is signed. It doesn't make sense. It is not true. What you are saying there is misdirected. I think you need to look at that. It doesn't make sense.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said. I was distracted. Can you say that again?
What I want you to address is you said.
No, I'm sorry. Can you go back and say what you said?
You are saying that a bill was passed in the House and the Senate and signed by the president.
Right.
And between there, the final act for that to be permanent law is to be handbill. And somebody in the foreign ministry saw it.
No, I didn't say that happened for a fact. Oh. Let me correct you.
Okay.
What I said is
correct yourself, maybe.
No. What I said is I suspect that someone went back to them and said, "Hey, this is not constitutional," because the whole thing went away.
Well, thank you for qualifying that, because it's your opinion.
I'm not qualifying you. I'm repeating what I said. So you need to understand what I say. You can't repeat something that I did not say.
This is why I'm asking for clarity, and you just made it clear that you say you suspect, so it wasn't a fact. Okay, so we're going to go to the next question here. The next question is very, very similar, but it's inverse.
Hold on.
And that one is,
I don't think Mr. Sharif spoke on the last issue that
he did. He was the first.
He was the first. He was the first. All right. It's the inverse of what you just said, and should make that even much easier. Because, like you said, you have 100 of them. And I'm going to start with you, Mrs. Famula or Ms. Famula. What is that one thing that you think that George Weah is doing that will sink his chances of being elected for the second term? That one thing that
I think the one thing that Weah is doing that is going to, essentially looking after his own personal interests and his personal needs above others. I think the perception that everyone has is that he's extremely self-centered. That's a perception. It's about his good time, his jolly. He needs to make a song. He needs to enjoy himself. He needs to be comfortable. And when you're in a public servant, it can't be about you. It can't be about you. It has to be about the people that you promised and sworn, taken an oath to the Constitution to serve. And I think that, if he continues to show that it's George Weah first, not Liberia first, not our children first, not our environment first, not our health, not our resources first, but him personally first, I think the citizens are gonna start to rebel. Because if it's all hail the king and he has to eat before anyone else eats, he has to be comfortable before anyone else is comfortable. That's bad. That perception, whether it's true or not, it's out there, and that's what is being projected from not only him but everyone who's around him is projecting that their lives are more important than
Okay, thank you, Ms. Famula. Sharif, can you unmute yourself? Sharif.
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Same question to you. Like my sister, Ms. Famula said, there's 100 things that she could name that will sink the second chance for being president. Can you point to that one thing that George Weah is doing that have the propensity of sinking his chances for being elected a second term?
I have to agree with everything she's saying right there. It could be 2,000 things, 5,000 things that we can list tonight. We don't have time tonight. It's all of the things that George Weah is doing to sink his presidency. George Weah, in my opinion, in my view, is one of the most corrupt, if not the most corrupt, president in Liberian history. So what George Weah has done, what he has been able to do after his election, is that he has built for himself several houses across the country, right? He has a vast array of investment in real estate. So he's not, it's not a bad thing to invest in real estate. But the thing is, this is not his own money. And the other thing is, his wife has a budget. His girlfriends have budgets. His brothers have budgets.
Mr. Sherry,
what is going on?
Mr. Sherry, this is
what is going on?
Mr. Sherry,
what is going? What?
Mr. Sherry, please. This is from what I'm understanding. This is a more kind of professional, intellectual. We want to really get this to something a little more factual than his girlfriend when we have no proof. Then he stole money that we don't have any proof. I would like you to specifically identify those things that are factual than just innuendo.
Well, the CDC of which you and Mr. Coney are members. CDC supporters who want us to believe that these are not facts. These are facts. These have been reported in the media. These are allegations like this are all over the place, right? Mr. Weah has not come up to say it's not true. Mr. Weah has not come out to tell the Liberian people where he got the money to build all these houses. Mr. Weah has not told the Liberian people where he got the money to fly a private jet across Africa, right? For the most part, West Africa, traveling all over the place in West Africa. He has not told the Liberian people. Mr. Weah has not declared his assets.
What is that one thing that was saying the president's second chance? That's what we're asking for.
It's not one.
What is that one thing?
It's not one thing. It's multiple.
No, but
issues.
we understand that the question is, what is that one thing of all that you think that is more important?
I have said that this president is the most corrupt president, one of the most corrupt presidents in Liberian history. So that one issue has several outlets that we can explore, that we can look at. So we can pigeonhole guests tonight into saying, what is the one issue? George Weah is not a one issue person. George Weah has committed multiple infractions right before the very eyes of the Liberian people. Right before you guys are elected him, and you're not saying anything about this because you are either, believe that he's from your part of the country or he share your ideology. Either one of which is very, very wrong for Liberia. So we have to be truthful to ourselves. We have to be truthful to this generation yet unborn. Liberia, the captain of this ship, is about to sink this ship if we don't do something now. So 2023 can't come fast enough to get rid of George Weah.
Thank you, Mr. Goya.
I'm not participating.
No, I'm coming to you, Mr. Goya. Can you unmute? Great. I always like to keep either Plato or the Queen second or last to actually land, because what Mr. Goya is saying here, I'm a social scientist. He is somebody that comes from the hard sciences. And when Mr. Sherry talked about the most, obviously there might have been something to be compared to be most, even though he didn't say of the 18 presidents, these are those, and this is where they are ranking when it comes to corruption. But he said this is the most. Mr. Goya, as we speak, what is that one thing that you, as an objective human being, as a scientist, as a man who believes in the numbers, if you were to look at something today that you say definitely will sink the president's boat if he didn't change, what would be that one thing?
Well, I appreciate that, but one thing I will hope we can change first on this platform is that the host ask questions and not be combative. Because we were asked to be here to teach, to learn from one another, not to be in a place where the host becomes so combative that that now they try to diminish the opinion or whatever the guests are saying. Having said that, one thing that the presidency can do, that George Weah can do, to change their narrative, is to rebut Maba Malu. His chairman was caught on tip saying he's corrupt. He's a certified womanizer, and everything that Mr. Sharif alluded to, and that Ms. Fambele alluded to. So if you ask me what the one thing he can do is he can rebut that. But going further is he can try to stamp and reverse the many conflicts of interest that are permeating his administration. So we look at a minister of education who runs a private school that is competing for resources, for academic resources. We look at a minister of health who runs a private hospital, right? So if you ask me, beyond just rebutting his current chair of the mighty CDC, Sycamore University, nothing there, right? And if he cannot do that, at minimum, try to ensure that this glaring and unstamped and unchecked conflict of interest that permeates his administration is checked. But I suspect, and I'm going to use that word suspect that my sister did, and I'm sure you're going to come back and try to hold me with, but I suspect that the president is incapable of doing that because he who shows up to court has to show up with clean hands. You cannot be trying to stamp something that you yourself are a part of. And so to quote, I don't usually quote, but I'm going to quote this one great intellectual mind that was created from Sycamore University, and I'm talking about the almighty Eugene Fagon. The cartel is in power.
Okay, Mr. Goya, I before you go, I know you're gonna feel a little pressure here because I'm gonna push back a little bit because I know Professor Sony had his private institution before he was asked to come on. I know the health minister had her hospital and doing exceptionally well, and she was asked to come on. Now you are talking about conflict of interest. You as a scientist, you as an educator, you are who you are. If the president of anybody asks you to come, despite your professionalism, to come and help in that sector, will that be considered conflict of interest, even though you and I knew that she had her hospital prior and have been in the business for so long?
Mr. Gaiman, that's a classic definition of conflict of interest. Yes, if she's called to national duty, what she was supposed to do was to divest herself, not to be in the leadership role of the hospital and both the Ministry of Education. I am not saying that these people who own businesses should not help Liberian government. By all means, Dr. Jala, as a matter of fact, Dr. Jala was a private doctor to my wife when she was in Liberia. So we did go to her hospital, and she is an excellent practitioner. So I'm not taking away from her. What I'm saying is when she was called to national duty, she should have divested herself or removed herself from the operational role of the hospital. And the same thing with Professor Ansu Soni. I am not saying that they're wrong by owning businesses. I am just saying that you cannot be both the referee and the player on the field. That is wrong.
Yep.
Thank you. Mr. Coney, I know we keep the best for last. I kept you out of a little bit. Can you give me one of those things? We are talking about being very, very objective here. You are an advisor to the president, and he turns to you and says, "What is it that I'm doing wrong that could sink me?" You, not as a partisan, not as a seditious, but as an advisor, an honest advisor, what is it that the president is doing that you see that if he continues, it will sink his presidency?
Yeah, let me just take 30 seconds to address something my sister said about, you see, the way sometimes we present information and we discuss issues is sometimes what gave us the confidence that George Weah will definitely be re-elected. Let's talk about the legislature. Ellen being surrounded by competent people. Ellen decimated the legislature. Ellen was one of the Liberian presidents that decimated the legislature. Instead of upholding the legislature as a co-equal branch of government, as a branch of independence, this was a playground. This is the president of Liberia that led, not once, 2 attempts to change the speaker of the national legislature by directly bribing lawmakers to change the speaker. So she's no role model when it comes to dealing with the legislature. I just wanted to make that point clear. But with regard to your specific question about what George Weah can do that will sink in, if George Weah were to ask me today, Mr. Kune, please tell me what I'm doing or I will continue to do that will sink me, What George Weah will do that will sink him, that will deny him a second term, is the disunity that is within the CDC. It is only the CDC that can defeat itself, not opposition. There is a lot of disenchantment among members of the CDC. There are a lot of seditions that put their effort into the revolution, quote unquote revolution, that led to victory. Some of these seditions found themselves on the sideline. And this is one of the single most things I would want the president to pay attention to: reconcile his party, reconcile his base. I'm very excited that reconciliation is going well between the president and the vice president, because the vice president is an important political pillar of the Congress for Democratic Change. So it is only in that area. That's the only thing that can break the CDC. Disunity, disenchantment. It is only CDC that can defeat CDC. So I will tell the president, you have to pay attention to your base. You have to pay attention to the party. You have to pay attention to those who disagree with you to the party. Yes, you may not be in a position to give everybody a job in your first round, but you have to give, people who struggle for this party, that kept this party alive for the last 12 years before you became president. You got to give them hope. Even if you don't give them job, there has to be a way that the party camaraderie and party relationship can exist. Because honestly, in my assessment of the Liberian political terrain, the only thing that can defeat the CDC is CDC itself, no opposition.
Okay. Mr. Tule, you are next.
Yeah, I'm sitting and listening, and there are a lot of interesting points coming out, the pros and the cons of the issues being discussed. The truth is, if we say enumerate or list all the ills, then one person will have to take 10 minutes, to be able to list them, or list all the positive points. Then Kuni would take 20 minutes to be able to list them. So we narrow it down to one thing.
I'm the shutdown speaker on the show.
Hold on. We know fully well that within that one thing, we're not putting the microphone and say just say one thing, but we try to let you, narrow it down to the most important in your view, in your opinion. What you think, that holds water for you. And watch. I mean, listening to everybody. One thing that I try to not to get too much into the show in terms of my personal opinion. All right, but we'll go forward. We'll take some calls. Okay, I think the number on the screen is there because we want to make it a little bit interactive. We'll take like 4 calls. People can call in and state their points, their view on this, whether asking a question or making a statement, and then we'll take their call. After the calls, we will have a round, and then we will take some of the statements or the comments being made in the chat box, and then from there, we will be winding down the show. So let's take some calls. Okay, no callers yet. So why no callers are there? Disclaimer: I am an opposition to George Weah. Mr. Gilman, my co-host, is definitely a supporter of George Weah. I've been listening to everything, and I wrote something down that I've never written down before. I said George Weah is a convergence of corruption and ineptitude, or incompetence, and for me that makes it difficult to really be able to capture George Weah's place among all the presidents that have ruled Liberia. Some were corrupt and more competent. Some were competent and less corrupt. George Weah carries, in my view, he carries the two, corruption and incompetence. So I will ask this question while we're waiting for a caller. When we have a caller, we'll take the caller. All right, let me just ask this question. We already said in many words, but let me ask this question. It might be rhetorical or whatever. Is George Weah deserving of a second term? I'll start with Sizzy. Sizzy, is he deserving of a second term? Go ahead and speak freely. And sometimes if you have a pushback from us, it's not because we try to make it the show kind of like acidic. No, but sometimes we must have a little bit of pushback to be able to get to you so that you can be able to explain and address yourself to the situation. All right, this is a very friendly space, bro. So let's go ahead.
Yes, and the question that he needs to answer there, it is, what does the president need to do in order to get a second term, and is that doable, or is he capable of doing that from now on to 2023?
So I will blend the both of your questions. So I am an internal optimist. As a teacher, I'm always optimistic. I don't see mistakes. I see.
We got callers. Okay. Can we take the first caller?
Absolutely. I can wait.
Hello, caller.
Your name and where you calling from?
Hello, caller. Your name and where you calling from? Okay.
It looks
all
like
right.
No,
sorry for cutting you off.
Go ahead, James. Call your name again.
Okay, my name is James Kokwe. I'm calling you from New York.
All right. Welcome, Mr. Kokwe. We've been talking about George Weah. Are you for? Do you have what is your position here? Do you have a statement, a comment, a question?
Yes, I do have a concern, and what I do have is my own opinion. What I do think about Liberian politics is that I see the prosperity of second term for George Weah if the CPP doesn't hold. And in my own belief, though I am an ANC member, the only way the CPP will hold is that Mr. Alexander B. Cummings may have to agree to go as second. So JNB, this is just a human worker. That would be a one round in the election. Other than this, we will see a second term of President George Weah. That's my honest observation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Because we're on the immediate with George Weah today, but fine. That's a good point to make. I know the panelists will look into that when we get back to them. But we have another caller. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
Yeah, Levi Madison. I'm calling from Delaware.
All right, Mr. Madison. Comment, question, point of view.
Yeah, comment.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for the clarity of the discussion. But I want to state my, dissatisfaction, or at least, disappointment with two of the panelists who, when speaking about the issue, rather than being scientific, as you introduced them, one a scientist, and the other, I think, is a political, person who said opinions and perspectives. I'm sorry. When you're discussing those issues, as you state, reasons why George Weah may not be elected, I don't think opinions should be, considered highly, because we're asking about facts on the ground. If you were to ask me, I think, Honorable Coney hit the number, on the head, speaking about the internal disintegration of the CUC, because that was the vehicle that brought Weah to power, and it's only that vehicle that can dislodge him of his second term bid. Also, given what George Weah is able to accomplish within the period of time, and given where our economy is, and the global downturn, so to speak, I think Weah is doing well, and he is well poised to being the next president of the Republic of Liberia. I want to conclude on that point. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Do we have another caller? All right, caller, your name and where you call from?
Go ahead, caller.
Hello.
Yes, your name and where you call from, sir?
Yeah, I'm Minnesota, calling from Minnesota, Terry College.
Terry Collins. All right, we have a question on the board. Does President George Weah deserve a second term? If yes, why? If no, why not? Do you have an opinion, or do you want to address this question?
Yeah, I want to address the question.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that President George Weah does not have chance winning the elections in Liberia, and that is very simple. Unless they tamper with the electoral results, because to be honest with you, the president is not resonating with his people. All right, he has shown so many signs that he cannot make it for the job, and that has gotten to the Liberian people to understand the people are willing to make a change. So whether if whosoever, even if the CPP do not hold and the election happens to go to a second round-up, that anyone that is in the second round that is higher, all right, or that will go next to that will be or next to George Weah or so, they will end up winning the election. Because to be honest with you, if you look at the votes that the people decided to give Senator Dillon with all his money, without him spending his own money, his own cash, send a message to the president, but he still did not get it. Up to now, he still haven't gotten it. That the Liberian people are fed up and they are tired. So I believe that President Weah does not stand a chance. Because even if he try to do anything now, it's too late for him. He won't have the chance to do anything. It's late. He's not even. First of all, look at the condition with the COVID-19. While people were dying, the president decided to sing Mama Rita. All right.
All right, Mr. Collins, we gotta go, sir. We got other callers on the line. You've made your point, and we really appreciate your call.
Okay, thank you.
I really appreciate your call.
Next caller, please.
Hello, caller. Your name and where you call from?
Yeah. Ali Kumar, calling from Maryland.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, sir. Do we have a question? We have a question on the board. Does President George Weah deserve a second term? If yes, why? If no, why not? And you just the mention of your name put me in laughing spare. Go ahead.
Why is Mr. Gilman already grumbling in the background once you heard Ali? What's going on? Anyway.
That's not Mr. Gilman. That's Tule. You're getting it wrong.
Yeah, Tule, anybody recognize your voice? You're the guy playing the mediator role. I understand that. I was just talking about the person sticking behind you there. Okay. Look, the answer to your question is very simple. George Weah does not deserve a second round. And the reasons are very apparent. George Weah do not deserve a second round because he lacks the ability to protect the country, which is his very first duty as a president of the republic. We see people go missing, absolutely no way to find these people. We see the national asset, as far as human capacity, the auditors taken off. 4 of them mysteriously killed. Until yet, there are no investigations. Everything has died down. We see police brutality going on the increase under his administration. He has never been able to come up as a president or as the chief of security in the country to make an announcement or to even put some fears in the police community, and things are getting very rampant. And not to even touch the economy. Inflation, instead of going down, continues to rise. And I know the argument of Mr. Tony will be Corona. Look, we know the story, okay?
Okay, Ali, we gotta go. We got book callers on the line, and we gotta move on, brother.
Okay, let me just close with this. Even though I said that he doesn't deserve a second chance, if you guys really want to follow what I'm saying, that he should not have a second chance, then Joseph Boakai is the only chance. Anything shy of that, he will get a second chance, and you do not want that. So join me in supporting Joseph Yuma Boakai for president. Thank you so much.
Okay, so thank you very much. We just gave you your 5 minutes of free ad that you didn't pay for, but it's all right. I mean, we are very short on time. I know we're going to go around the table and address that, but you know, there's a particular part of this show that I want you all to address before we move forward.
Before there's a game, man. We can take two more callers because they say the callers are queued. Yeah,
okay, go ahead.
Your name and where you call from, sir?
This is Christian again. Once again, I'm calling from Phoenix, Arizona.
All right. Your name again, sir?
Tonight, it seems that we Liberian people, I don't know what is going on with us. I think we are a little confused. When I look at president, I'm a youth, I would say. When I look at president and the achievement, I have nothing. I would say this: all the educated people who sit down on the show tonight and they open their eyes wide and say something they know they don't have no evidence against. I have nothing. No president under 3 years to undertake the project of President George Weah. I bet you bring Joseph Boaka after 3 years and show his achievement. You will never compare.
All right.
All the other people. Let me tell you something tonight. Look, I think you guys are getting into your Weah hate feelings.
Okay. Hello.
Let him land.
Hello, Mr. Caller. No. We don't allow calls that are disrespectful to our panelists. Hello, can you turn off that call, Mr. Ja, please? Listen, we don't listen. Hold on, Mr. Gilman. We do it a little bit different on Focus on Liberia. If you have a point to make, you can disagree with anybody you want to disagree with, but be respectful. When you start using words that are crazy, we'll cut you off because we want to maintain some certain level of decorum here, please. All right, we don't want this denigrating to something else. All right. So, hello, caller. Your name and where you call from? Hello. Do we have a caller on the line?
Yes, you have a caller.
All right.
Caller, where you calling from? Your name?
This is Representative Carlos Gray. I'm calling from the Republic of Nigeria. Mr. Gray, the question is asked whether President Weah deserves the second tenure of winning.
Mr. Gray, can I say something to you? Representative Gray, can I say something to you?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because of time, we can only give you 2 minutes. So we want to respect you. I don't want to cut you off.
It's so long for me. Thank you very much. Let us take first into consideration who are the fellows that will be facing Weah in the presidential election campaign. I hear people talk about Joseph Boyka. But I think even those who are defending Joseph Boyka are calling, are shouting in the legs. He presided over a Liberian Senate. The very legislature you criticizing under President Sally. Joseph Boyka presided over the Senate. Every document, bill, resolutions, budgets, concession agreements that will lead the capital building has 4 signatures. The Vice President, the Speaker, the Secretary of the Liberian Senate, and the Chief Clerk of the House of Representatives. So in the absence of the Vice President, the pro tem, like in the absence of the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, and so on. So if you argue that the legislature failed, it means that Joseph Boyka himself failed because he presided over a legislature that failed the people for 12 years by your argument and by your assertion.
I don't think he knows what the Vice President's role of the Senate is. That's embarrassing.
The Vice President, probably you don't know the function of the Vice President. He's not a
I actually do. It's ceremonial. It's ceremonial is the tiebreaker.
Miss Famula, can you give him
and the current president and current vice president were actual senators.
Yes, Miss Famula, we don't do that. Can you give him the chance, let him land, then you, because he's responding to what you said.
I apologize. I'll allow him to continue.
And then you will come in after he.
Go ahead, Honorable Gray. I will keep quiet.
Yeah, I think fair enough, you should reduce the catharsis. because I'm providing prima facie and not emotional sentiments. Joseph Boykai, in the run of presidential election, only took a single county out of 15. The records are there. This both output and performance. Wheresoever George Weah as a president goes, the masses change. Unlike the Joseph Boykai, these areas, he's not being chaired. He's not seen as a national leader. Don't bring Alexander Cummings because he's a novice to the body politics of the Republic of Liberia. No one knows it. Even the city became staying into pieces, into Tata.
Okay, Mr. Gray, you got 1 minute. 1 minute, sir.
Yeah, 1 minute?
Yeah, 1 minute. 1 more minute. I gave you 1 minute. You already passed. It's 4 minutes now.
No, keep him on. I want him to respond to me.
George Weah will be running on the records in 3 years, as opposed to Joseph Boykai record in 12 years. Take the records, put them on the table, and tear them into pieces in terms of development. And then argue the facts and not the opinions. Thank you very much.
All right, can you stay on the line? Let Ms. Formula respond to you, and then you can have a response.
You will take it off the line.
Let me respond, please. Honorable Gray, my in-law. Let me say something to you.
Okay, let me listen to you, Mama.
Okay, let me say something to you. Weah was a senator. Jewel was a senator. You were also a representative in the past administration. The vice president's role in the Senate is mostly ceremonial. In the event that it's a tie, listen, I know the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia like the back of my hand. Big, you don't argue that with me. I beg you. I don't want to get into that. But he's a tiebreaker if it's necessary. But otherwise, it's ceremonial. And whether there's no way that you can talk about actual senators who are not president and vice president. You who are a lawmaker during Sirleaf's administration, you who are a lawmaker today, and you want to put the blame on a ceremonial person who's actually a part of the executive for what the legislature did, I think that's unfortunate. But the reason I wanted to address this, earlier in the program, I don't know if you were listening, I talked about Bali Island. Where is the bill? Where's the handbill, Senator? Is that something you can make available to the public? Because for 2 years, almost 3 years now, we've been trying to get a copy of this law.
Okay,
we have not been successful.
Mr. We gotta let him go, so let him respond quickly. Right. Say if I bring you there, we'll just stay in this one.
I'll respond quickly, but I didn't get that part.
Okay, he asked.
You can take your answer off the air.
Yeah, no, but let him respond.
Let him respond.
He asked. Hello, Mr. Honorable Gray. Honorable Gray.
Okay.
She asked a question. She said, "Where is the Bali Island bill? The handwritten English bill, the law. Where is it?"
The Bali Island bill?
Yeah. You guys passed a bill.
In December of 2018.
Let me say this to you. You know, when the law is passed and signed, it's printed into a handbill.
Right.
So you can check, excuse me, you can check one of your political party lawmakers to know if there was a law that was passed, so you can get a copy. But let me just say quickly to you, it's simply unfortunate. I don't want to argue that the vice president plays a ceremonious role as presiding officer. If you read the rules of the Liberian Senate or the rules of the House of Representatives, the power vested in the presiding officer, I'm talking about the rules, is so mammoth that he makes a determination of who speaks, when, and how. Not only that, he makes a determination.
Honorable Gray.
No, wait. He makes a determination of what the agenda is. He can hijack a motion. He can prevent a bill from being passed at a point in time.
Okay, we got to move on, sir.
Yes,
excuse me, sir.
Lastly, thank you. Yeah.
Hello, sir. Yeah. We got to move on. No. Because we will make it. I know my brother there. I know my brother very well. I want him. He has an open invitation. Honorable Greg, you have an invitation to be here on Thursday.
Yeah, maybe next week Thursday I was taken, but I'm coming on Saturday. But I just want to quickly say to you that under President Seri, I never voted for a single concession agreement, nor a budget under President Seri, for many reasons. The records are public and consumable.
All right. Okay, so thank you so much, sir. We gotta move on.
Someone made the mistake by the rules of the Senate.
Yes, sir. We gotta move on, sir. Honorable Gray, we gotta move on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you, sir.
For avoiding
All
my
right, we'll take one more caller, and then that's it. Then we go back to we look at a few comments, and then we get back to our people for them to take their time and land there. Okay. Yeah, any caller on the line? Caller, your name and where you calling from?
Yeah, I'm on the line.
Yes, sir. Your name and where you call from?
My name is Darling Warwood. I'm calling from Worcester, Massachusetts.
All right, sir. Go ahead, sir. Make your point, comment, or question.
Yeah, the question you guys are asking as to whether Mr. Weah deserves a second term.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think the question is incomplete. Deserve a second term of a disaster or what?
No. When we say second term, everybody know we're talking about presidency. So we're not saying disaster or problem or car breakdown. We just say second term.
The first term is a disaster. Why would he be giving a second term to run the country into the ground like what Mugabe did with Zimbabwe? First of all, making George Weah a president was a big mistake. And making George Weah president is like giving a diamond watch to a 2-year-old baby for her birthday. All the baby will do with a diamond watch is to chew it. What does George Weah know about running a government? What does George Weah know about running an economy? What does he even know about running his own money? They do squander his own wealth. The money that he worked for, that he lived for, he squander it. How is he going to manage wealth that belongs to 5 million people when he cannot even manage his own wealth? It's a terrible thing that Liberians are experiencing today under George Weah. But George Weah becoming president on his second term is never worry. What worry means that most is who will succeed George Weah. Because imagine right now, who are the people that will go in the corridor? 80-year-old Joseph Waga, Benena Yure, who stole from Maritime, Alexander Kumi, who
doesn't take any prisoner. All right, sir. Okay, so thank you. Because of time spent, we gotta move on. Thank you so much.
George.
Thank you, sir.
Let him land.
We already landed. He made his point. He was just going back, recycling. It's okay.
Okay, let's go to our last caller.
Your call, sir.
Let's go to our last caller.
Hello.
Your name and where you call from, sir?
Yeah, my name is Isma, calling from Washington, D.C. The question is, does George Weah deserve a second term? And I will tell you yes, and I will tell you why. Not only does he deserve, but he will. You see, people buy things by perception. Your perception of something being valuable, of something being good, is why you buy it. It's why you purchase it.
It's true.
People have elected George Weah because of the perception they have of him. And they still have that same perception of him going to the polls. You see,
let him land.
I want to ask you a question.
And how things really work. It's all in your mind. And he is still the people's choice. So he deserves to win if they vote for him, and he will win. As simple as that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
That's it. Nothing else.
Except the people are suffering worse than they were before he was.
People have been suffering. The people have suffered. The people have been told many things. They've been disappointed. They've been disillusioned. So
and you believe they're stupid? You believe we're stupid?
If I blame whom?
If you believe that we are stupid, the people
listen. Mr. Tule, that's not the question. The question here, we're not asking whether someone is stupid. We are asking. He made his point, and I think he has landed. Let's go to the discussion and not go into belittling what is going on here. We are not stupid. Neither is anybody stupid. We're not going to go to that level. But let's go on to the fact that this particular question we have to come to. I know you guys. We in politics, and most of you that have been in politics know this. We have something called the war room. And the purpose of the war room is actually to determine and strategize pathway to victory. So there's a question on here about pathway to victory. So let's go around here and someone tells me, what is the pathway for Joseph Boyka to victory? What is the pathway of coming to victory? And what's the pathway to President Weah winning a second term. Pathway to victory. We just want to know the pathway. And this would be numerical, actually based on number. So let's start with Mr. Goya.
So hold up. First thing, Mr. Tule, you had a question for me before this. So does this supersede your question, or should I ignore your question and run to this?
You can answer both. You got time. You can answer both.
Mr. Gimmer, hold on. Number two, you're asking me for numbers. I know there are, at the University of Sycamore, you create numbers. I am a pure mathematician. I am not going to deal with numbers where numbers don't exist. So what numbers do you want me to give you? Because you have not done any credible.
No, but listen to this. Listen to
this.
Whether you like numbers or not, there is a pathway to victory.
Mr. Gimmer, you just cautioned Mr. Tule to let the callers land. Can you let me land?
Yes.
So you got to follow what you just cautioned Mr. Tule to do.
Go ahead.
So you got to let me know, as your guest on this platform, which question you want me to answer, and don't give me questions that you know cannot be answered, because I don't want to pluck numbers out of the air like people are used to doing. I hate that.
Okay, Mr. Goya, let me make it very simple. The election is coming up. It's a question that was predetermined, not by me. The question is pathway to victory. Whoever, we ask you to be very analytical, be objective. How does the next president win? How do they win? Let's say if you wanted to say going from county to county. Let's say is Cummings to win Bassett, Riverside, and Y, and George Weah win the whole Southeast plus 1, 2, 3. What are the combination for victory for each of the candidates? It's that simple.
Hypothetically.
Everything we are saying is hypothetical.
Hold on.
From the beginning of the show, we were made told that this show was about George Weah.
Yes, thank you. I'm still dealing with my domain.
How are we deviating from George Weah's path to victory, and now we are talking about Cummings' path to victory?
We are only examining George Weah's path to victory.
Yeah, the question I'm asking here is, we are talking about path to victory here. The question is George Weah path to victory.
Yeah, we should discuss that and leave the other candidates alone.
But this is what I'm saying. I'm giving here an example of how you develop a pathway to victory when you are in the war room.
I did not need an example. What you did for me was to change the calculus. And that's what Mr. Cooney is saying, is that when we started out here, you told me my domain was going to be specifically talking about CDC. Now you want to expand that.
Yeah, we remain there. Okay, we remain there, CSA. Go ahead.
No, we are not expanding. We are not expanding. I'm going to give you an example that you say you don't know.
You gotta learn. You gotta know when you're wrong.
That's fine. Can you give me a pathway to victory?
Let me speak to that now. So the one thing I wanted to talk about was what initially Tule has asked about, and what's the pathway to a George Weah presidency minus finding a unicorn in Liberia, right? Is to get rid of a representative like Carlos Gray. And I'm going to go there. I hope he has stayed on the line. Because when you come on and you are a national leader, you come on a talk show and you add nothing intellectually to the discourse. You see, in mathematics, we call that the identity. If I add 0 to something or minus 0 from something, that thing does not change because that is the identity. If I multiply anything by 1 or divide by 1, it changes nothing because that is the identity of multiplication. What the Representative Gray did was to become an identity. He added nothing to this discourse. That is the problem, the classic problem we have with the CDC. You spent 12 years in opposition. You didn't get ready to lead. You will stay in election mode. You will stay in opposition mode. So if you ask me, short of finding a unicorn to get George Weah elected to a second term, you got to start getting rid of the dead weight. And I'm afraid to say this, that the Honorable Akaros Gray just proved it's a dead weight. Now, beyond that,
Mr. Goya, let me push back.
Let me speak. I'm telling you,
are talking about an elected.
I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. I can chastise an elected official because when my sister, Mrs. Famble, asked him to present a bill for the body stuff, instead of him saying, "Well, I don't have it," or "I don't remember," let me check with my team. He said flippantly, "Can you refer to your senator?" Right? You are a representative of the people. You cannot be that flippant. So if you tell me that he's an elected official, I agree. I'm also allowed to chastise my elected official. And that's what I'm doing. You may not like it because it's your buddy, but I'm going to do that. All right? So here's where I got to tell you. If George Weah wants to be re-elected, the proper agenda for prosperity has to be implemented. Well, first thing, it has to be understood. And it has to have one definition, because depending on who you speak to at what given day, they will tell you a different iteration of what the proper agenda for prosperity is. But if they can find an ideal and agreed upon definition for the proper agenda, George Weah wants to become a second-term president, he needs to implement that, because that is what he was elected for. That was the social contract he signed with his people. I understand. Look, I don't want to hold the president accountable because of a pandemic. This pandemic held a lot of economies down, right? But what were you doing before the pandemic? And what are you doing? What is the optics? How are you letting your people know that you're with them? That's my point. So for me, in nutshell, if George Weah wants to have a second-term presidency, he has to start cutting out the fat. The CDC has to start cutting off the fat. And there's a lot of fat in the CDC.
Thank you. Mr. Sharif, let me go to you here. Let's do the map geographically, okay? Which counties or geographic area that George Weah considers his base, which will you consider a toss-up, and which counties and area you will consider a no-go zone for the CDC?
I mean, if you look at Lofa County, is definitely, not in the game in Lofa County. Toss up maybe Nimba County because of the Prince Johnson factor, whether you like it or not. He's the kingmaker in Nimba County. So depending on where he goes, Nimba County goes. You look at the entire Southeast, Grand Gita, Sino, Maryland, Grand Crew, those are solidly behind George Weah. So what the opposition can do is begin to peel off some of the southeastern counties like Grand Gita, which is, doable, especially, when you look at the population as well, very diverse, and, they're not 100% behind George Weah. So an opposition candidate like Mr. Barker, like Mr. Cummings, can peel off Grand Gita and thereby eroding the chances of a sweep in the southeast. And then Montserrado, which is, the big ticket, right? So, wherever Montserrado goes, so goes the election, I think. At this point, I don't think George Weah is popular in Montserrado because of all of the things that we've already enumerated. George Weah has not done a good job with COVID. He has vacationed a lot. He has left the Liberian people dying and went on vacation. He has, taken a lot of resources out of public funds to finance his real estate projects all over the country. He has taken a lot of resources to, finance his wife's projects. He hasn't been accountable to the Liberian people. I said on one of the shows the other day that this legislature, if anything they can do, is to begin an impeachment proceeding against this president. So, Kara's great, instead of coming on here to talk to us about something, to clarify something, he needs to do his job. His job is to hold this president accountable. He's not holding this president accountable. I'm disappointed in the legislature. I'm tremendously disappointed in the legislature that they're not doing their job. They need to hold this president's feet to the fire, and they're not doing that. So these are the things that I think they should do. The other day you have Professor P.L.O. Lumumba, who came on the show, and he said that, George Weah should wake up from his slumber. There was a lot in there that he said. George Weah needs to wake up from his slumber. Yeah. So, in other words, George Weah needs to be the president that people voted for. So we asked about the one thing he needs to do, and we've gone back to that point over and over again. I continue to mention he needs to be a president that the country voted for. And therein lies his chances, right? The president needs to show leadership. For the opposition, I've already outlined, their strategy, some of the things that they need to do. You can't sit in Monrovia and say, the entire Southeast, those people are going to vote for George Weah. I don't care what they say or do. You still want to expand your message across the country. You want to visit Sino County if you're in opposition. You want to visit Grand Crew. George Weah is not doing anything for his county, for Grand Crew County. George Weah is not doing anything for Maryland. So you go out there with a message of hope and vision to those people. And believe it or not, everybody wants something. Everybody wants a share of the national cake. So if your message is transparent, if your message is simple, if your message is actionable, you are going to begin to erode George Weah's chances by going to the Southeast. And so that is where, if I'm in the opposition, this is where I start. And then I'll make my way up to Montserrado, to Grand Bassa, to Bombing, and all these other counties.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cooney, same question to you. President, we are pathway to victory. We are talking about geography. We are talking about the numbers. So let's start with you. I know you have an analytical know-how as far as the war room is concerned. When you were with Eula, you did similar, and I know exactly because I was with Eula as vice president one time. So tell me, what is the pathway geographically as we stand?
Jerome, I think I might be the first person to come on this platform to let the Liberian people know that George Weah will not only win a second term, but he will have that victory in the first round. He's winning a first round victory. I've been able to articulate some of the reasons why he will do so, and I'm doing that independent of other variables that we're not even discussing today. I'm only doing that based on George Weah himself. I mean, you look at the electoral map. My brother used to say, my brother is a math major. We all believe in data, even though in most Liberian circles, we don't rely on data. We just speak opinion. But there is data. There is existing data to prove George Weah electability. Look at the 2017 general elections, where the men swept the entire country except Lofa County.
Okay.
That path is still there. And this is why in my presentation here tonight, the only barrier that I see that would be of a hindrance to George Weah is internal
Can I ask a question, conflict. Mr. Cooning?
If that internal party conflict is resolved, even the Lofa County that was a no-go zone for George Weah, that Lofa County will be a contested zone this year.
What happened in Montserrado, Mr. Cooning?
What happened in Montserrado County? Two things happened. George Weah was not on a ballot, and there was dissension in the CDC. That's what I'm speaking to.
He was on every political.
Excuse me. We're speaking facts. He was not on a ballot.
Goya, you are not.
He was not on a ballot. He was not on a ballot. And again, there was this disenchantment in the CDC. This is why I'm pushing for party unity. I'm saying with party unity and with George Weah being on the ballot, the Montserrado County story will be a different story.
Twice, and he campaigned. He campaigned against him. Hold on now, because as a co-host on the show, I have the right to interrupt you and come up with points so that I put you in perspective. He wasn't on the battle, we agree, but he campaigned. He campaigned in the first one, and then he campaigned also in the second one with Thomas Fala. All right, you saw how he was bombastic, that the Ures had this and the other one would not happen. We saw what came out of his rhetoric. Still, the people in Montserrado that he had won consistently for 5 or 6 elections, decided in 2 elections.
Excuse me.
Decided in 2 elections. Hold on now. He decided in 2 elections to go away from him. 2 elections. There was a divergence.
Yeah, but Mr. Tule, let me bring you, Mr. Cooney, before you come back, let me bring you to a point of correction. I work in the Barack Obama, President Biden re-election 2012. when he was on the ballot, he won. When he campaigned, when he was not on the ballot, and he campaigned for his for the Secretary of State, she lost.
Yeah,
so
but
there's a
mixing something here
between being on the ballot and campaigning for somebody. Yeah, Mr. Cooney, address that, please.
Okay, Mr. Cooney, Mr. Cooney, hold on, someone now. We have been quiet, so let me just make a point to Mr. You mixing apples and oranges here. You have had a populist leader in Liberia who, though he did not win an election, he won Montserrat County twice in 2005. He won. Their party won again in 2011. In 2017, they won. But besides that, there were other well-notable senatorial elections that they also swept. They won against the ruling party during those times. Now they became the ruling party. And the rhetoric or the chants of those who supported Dillon in the last election was very clear that the people were standing against the malfeasance, the ineptitude, the corruption that they were experiencing. So, Mr. Cooney, we're back to you again. What is clear that George Weah will win in 2023?
So what you say is your opinion, and I respect that, and I disagree with that. All of the things you spew are just your opinions. My analysis of the event is that we lost those two elections primarily because of internal dissension among seditionists. That's my opinion. That's my analysis. So you hold your opinion. And this is why I'm saying our path to victory is to first bring unity in our party. When the CDC is united, when the CDC reconcile with its rank and file, when the CDC reconcile with its bases all around the country, I see the CDC winning a first-time election, and that's why I'm excited. You talk about the prospect of the CDC nationwide. I can imagine the CDC where Senator Joel Howard Taylor as vice president is campaigning in both Bond County and Lofa County. George Weah is campaigning in Montserrat, the entire Southeast and Nima County. I don't see the path for any victory for any other person.
Okay, we agree. We'll take a 30-minute break.
Yes.
You can't be talking
30-second break. You mean 30
We'll take a 30 seconds break, and then we'll come back and do Tabata. You will still make your points. No problem.
That's correct. That's
yeah.
correct.
It's too late, baby. Go to bed. I don't need your Tabata. Baby, oh, your Tabata. I gotta go away. Your Tabata. My baby, oh, I don't need your Tabata. My baby, oh. Baby, I'm tired. I don't need your Tabata. Baby, oh, your Tabata. I gotta go away. Your Tabata. My baby, oh, I don't need your Tabata.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back to our special edition, our midweek edition, that is considered the best and the brightest. We have the best of our minds from Liberia discussing issues that confront us, and we included some geopolitics. With me is our analytical, mathematical genius from the Midwest. Mr. Goya is here. With me is our dynamic political analyst. We see Mrs. Famula is here. And my brother from the Southeast, from Grand Jide, the great. We talk about Mr. Sharif, and obviously the Plato of our time, Mr. Wilmer Conant. Mrs. Famula, let's go to you here. We are here before we go to the Tabata thing. We want you to, you didn't respond to, or you didn't make your opinion on the last one, which is pathway, George Weah path to a re-election. We are looking at the geography. We are looking at numbers, pathway to 2023.
So I think the analogy is flawed, and Liberian political analysis cannot be based specifically on geography outside of where you think there might be an ethnic basis for someone to support someone. But these political movements and political parties do not have ideologies. They don't have a core belief system. So there is nothing tying anyone to George Weah or CDC beyond that they're a fan of Weah and that they like the jersey, right? The same thing that ties someone to maybe liking Manchester United or Arsenal, right? So if the star player does something
Don't forget
base,
Chelsea. Don't forget Chelsea.
yes, or Chelsea. So if the star player that you love in this football club does something base or disgraceful that you don't agree with, and you or they fumble or do something terrible, and you'll instantly turn against the team, because there's nothing holding you there. You're just a fan. It's just about getting in the streets and singing Weah or whatever the case. And so this geography, this geological thing is flawed. The other thing that is flawed in the way I see people doing analyses is that counties do not elect presidents in Liberia. It's a direct democracy through a direct ballot. So the president, each individual vote counts equally. We don't have an electoral college. We have a true democracy in Liberia. So it doesn't matter where you are when you cast your vote for president. It'll be counted equally. So looking at it in that manner, I think it's flawed. The other thing I want to point out is that because there's no ideology, there's no ideological basis, people can just switch political parties willy-nilly because they don't believe in anything and the parties don't stand for anything. So people switch political parties or join political parties on arbitrary things. Like, oh, that crew person. Oh, that person is Gil. This person is Vi, or whatever the case might be. And at the end of the day, there's no big future picture for Liberian people to hold on to for their future. So if we are going to do anything, which I don't think is possible, but if Seditians or anyone who is seeking political power in 2023 wants to do anything revolutionary, a revolutionary act would be to come up with an ideological basis for your wanting to be in power. Because if you're not trying to achieve a goal, then your quest for power is simply to be in power. So your end goal is just to get there. It's not to get there and accomplish something. See, ideology says, what are you going to accomplish? If you have a political ideology like I do, you would want to accomplish, I would want to see someone who wants to accomplish the development of human capital. I would like to see someone that's going to look at individual human beings in the country and say, hey, we are going to invest in growing the minds of Liberian people. If George Weah came out and said, I am going to invest every effort, every resource into human capital development, 2/3 of our problems would be solved. And the developed human capital, those brilliant minds that have been cultivated, will solve the other 1/3 and advance the country into prosperity. But Weah does not even send Koji to school. He does not even send Josephine Davis to school. He gives them responsibilities that they are not prepared to handle. And that is a problem, because when they leave office, these people are not going to be in a position to do anything. They're not advancing themselves personally. You see, financial advancement and theft and all of these things, acquiring material resources, does not advance you as a human being. You're still going to be what you are. The purpose of living in this world is to advance your mind, advance yourself, your being. And you can wear all the fancy clothes and drive all the fancy cars. If you're ignorant, if you're naive, if you are foolish, you are not a full-fledged human being. Your constant quest as a human being should be to overcome ignorance. And I would hope that President Weah and those around him would understand that they also are the human capital that needs to be developed. I am constantly reading because my greatest fear, although all of us are ignorant, we're all born ignorant, my greatest fear is to die as ignorant as I am today. So every single day I strive to be better, to do better, to enlighten myself further. And where I need to change my mind because I've become more enlightened, I change my mind. And until we get to that point as Liberian people, we're going to remain where we are.
Thank
So
you. Thank you.
that's the issue. We need an ideological basis in our politics. We need a big future picture that we're going to paint. Keep our eyes on that future picture. It's not enough to be competent. It's not enough to have numbers. It's not enough to vote. We need to transform the country by first transforming the citizens. We need someone that is going to motivate our people to stand up like the men and women they are and carry this country into the future. Until we have someone that speaks that language, we're going to continue to run into this problem that we're constantly in.
Thank you. Thank you very much. At this point, I mean, we got about maybe 10 more minutes here on here. We've been here going on 2 hours. We want to go to this section that we call Tabata in Crew, or in the Kwa language, means basically smoke screen. What are some of the things that I know my brother Goya, he follows a lot of smoke screen, I can tell from here. He can tell and you can tell. But on a serious note, what is it in the Liberian body politics as of today that we can consider as a complete smoke screen or a complete scam or a complete, I want to say somebody playing a Houdini on us. So this time around, let's start with Mr. Sharif. Mr. Sharif, what would be a complete smoke screen now in our Liberian politics? This doesn't have to be CDC, ANC. We're talking about the Liberian politics, the body politics. What is the biggest smoke screen now that you see? You got 1 minute, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if this will qualify, but I'm going to try to present it anyway. And that is that when I look at campus politics now, it has changed so much. So you see these, for example, the Student Unification Party had a protest on 12th Street in Cinco. So one of the things they did, they damaged the vehicle of a private citizen. I mean, completely, they damaged his vehicle for whatever reason, I don't know. And nothing came of it. That is unacceptable. The other thing is that, you know, when these guys speak now, it's not like our days. So when they speak, you can gauge that the level of education has really declined. It has really degraded. And you see young guys going out there with battle cries. So if they're supposed to talk for an hour, so the battle cries would take about 45 minutes. That is something that, you know, to me is a tabata. If it qualifies, that is a tabata to me. That needs to stop. You know, and I listen to them. The other day I listened to students from Margibi County who were talking about something on their campus as well. And, you know, they were doing the same thing. And that to me needs to stop. You know, the battle cries, the bad language, the bad English, and all of that for university students, it just speaks to the decline of the Liberian educational system overall. Hopefully it qualifies as a tabata.
Thank you. Mr. Goya, your complete tabata today.
I'll let him have his English problem because I don't want to touch that. But my tabata for today is going to be the notion that the executive branch of government is excused from budgetary failures. That when we talk about the budget and say lawmakers are giving themselves 30,000 or 100,000, that somehow, some way, the executive is excused from that. Yeah. The president has to sign the budget before it becomes legal. Mm-hmm. The president, I'm going to repeat that. The president of the the Republic of Liberia has to sign the budget before it becomes law. Mm-hmm. So the matabata is when people try to explain that somehow legislators getting 30,000 and there are fires raging everywhere in Liberia, and somehow the legislators alone are responsible for that outside of the executive because they allotted that to themselves, even though the president signed the budget. That's my tabata. You get off that stuff. Whatever you're smoking, you need to stop that.
The Plato of our time is Coney. What is your Tabata? You're from the southeast. You know what Tabata is. Tell me what the biggest smoke screen out there today.
I got two, just two for tonight. Will just be
Okay,
two.
that's good.
And let me pick it back on my small brother Sissy. One of the Tabata is the fact that the opposition that has promised us new direction in Liberian politics, the very opposition that control the legislature, that senators and representatives of the opposition in the legislature are allocating this obscene amount of money to themselves, and the opposition is silent. Yet they say they're bringing us change. That's one of the greatest political tabata in our country. The second tabata is
Got to.
That's a revisionist view of the reality.
He said two. That's one. Go ahead.
Yeah, but it's a revisionist view. You sign it
Let's see. Let the man land. Go ahead.
My second tabata is the intelligentsia condescension of ordinary people in Liberia. When the ordinary people vote for them, the ordinary people are smart. They know what they're doing. But when the ordinary people vote against them, they are stupid. They don't know what they're voting for. That's one of the greatest tabata in our country.
Thank you very much. Somebody, a very good friend of mine, said his biggest tabata is my round glasses that I'm wearing.
I saw that.
Yeah, he upsets him that I'm wearing my glasses. Mrs. Famula, the biggest tabata in Liberian politics, body politics, as we speak today.
The greatest tabata in Liberian politics is politics without an ideological basis. That's the most disturbing thing I've ever witnessed in any country I've ever studied. You know, people just I don't want to win. What are you gonna do? We'll make sure everybody get draw. What is your ideology? What do you think about Liberia? Do you believe in the vision that the Constitution lays out for Black excellence in the country? Do you believe in the principle of a Black republic? They don't even ask these people questions. Liberian people don't believe in anything, and they don't even ask the question of potential candidates. You know, what do you think about dual citizenship? What do you think about, you know, the principle of an African nation built for the purpose of being a Black asylum, where African people can excel, and basically Liberia is Wakanda, right? And so the question we have for everybody is, what is your belief system? Oh, I'm competent. I can do a better job. Is competence a political ideology? That's the biggest thing.
Thank you very much, sis. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our program. We're not closing, Mr. Tule. I just want to lay the premise here. We got 9 minutes here remaining. So I wanted to proportionally give out the 9 minutes so we can do it 2 minutes at a time.
Yeah, before they come in, I need to make a contribution.
Go ahead.
Before I left Liberia, I worked at George Weah radio station. And I saw how many times we tried to get the guy to come and appear at his own station, and he always dodged us. Why? I always said, even to the guys there, I said, this guy has no articulated ideology. He has no vision. He's not saying anything to the Liberian people. Besides, he's just riding on his populism. And we saw it even when I was out of the country and he ran for president finally and he won 2017. George Weah did not enumerate points and say, vote for me, and these are the things I believe in, these are the things I want to do for the country. I'm going to do this in healthcare, I'm going to do this in education, I'm going to do this in security, I'm going to do this for the economy, I'm going to do this for agriculture, I'm going to do this in mining, I'm going to make sure I protect Liberian content. Or when it comes to agreements, mineral development agreements or whatever, make sure that Liberian content is protected. Make sure that our people, we're not just slaves. When people come to take our minerals, they come and take our minerals, and our people are abused in the process. I saw he had no articulated ideology, and this is the one to me that I really want to highlight today. Piggybacking on what Cole said. I have not heard. CDC is not a party of ideology. Many parties, political parties in Liberia, are not parties of ideology anyway. All right, they don't have what we call a real substantive platform that lists out their plans on how they're going to. So in terms, somebody said something. I think was Mr. Gaiman or whatever. I don't know. I can't remember at the beginning of the show. Talk about contract. Somebody mentioned the issue of contract between George Weah and Liberian people. What can you hold me to? I was saying, what can you hold me to when I did not promise you anything? What can you hold me to? You voted for me, but I didn't give you any promises, and these are the things I would. And that's why I told Isaac Tokpa today. He's chief of office staff for Cummings. I told Isaac Tokpa I will always repeat it. I say, Isaac Tokpa, the mistake you are making, you think when George Weah becomes president, he will use your brain to govern Liberia. As I will always say it to him, because I held him responsible for promoting and advancing the candidacy of an individual who had no idea how things work. The typical example, the hospital got burned. They asked him regarding the budget, and he said he's not the one who does the budget.
And he's right. And he's 100% right.
He is totally wrong.
He is completely right.
Originates, we all know, in Liberia.
The host and the co-host may argue.
Hold on,
we are not arguing. I'm correcting him because the Constitution gave the appropriation and budgeting right to the House.
In practice, in Liberia, it is the Ministry of Finance through the Budget Bureau that prepares the budget and advances it to the national legislature. Hold on.
Budget and the budget.
You are not going to cut me off, Mr. Gaiman. You're not going to cut me off. The budget is prepared by the executive in advance for appropriation or for debate into the legislature, both houses. They look at it and they determine what they want to put there, what they want to call, what they want to use, because they have the fiduciary constitutional duty to make appropriation.
Okay, we got
at the end of the day. Hold on. At the end of the day, it goes back to the presidency for signature. The president agree with that budget. He sends it back to them and says, listen, you guys put things in here I am not in agreement with. It has to be reconciled. But so it is.
Why you change? Can they keep putting organ and ratting thing in the budget?
Oh, listen. Yeah, well, then he has a right to throw it away. The president
listen, guy, we got 7 more minutes here.
Your team agent keep putting ratting thing in the
budget. I want to cut you guys off, but let's use our last 2 minutes here to go around the table and close.
You got your change agent to keep putting ratting thing in the budget.
Let's start with Mrs. Famula, please. Your 2 minutes closing remark. You can address everything within.
Every time you want to point out, George, we are ills. Especially me, I say anybody else because I have the ability.
We got 7 minutes.
Give the little chance.
We have 7 minutes.
He will interrupt. It's a tactic he has on Sundays. He will interrupt so that I cannot really lay my point out for the people to understand what I'm saying.
You got 2 minutes.
At the end of the day, he will cut me off. Mr. Gaiman, you have to stop this.
You have to be sustained.
No,
you do it in 2 minutes. I'm not interrupting the show. Sister Famula, go ahead. 2 minutes.
The closing remarks we on now. Okay.
Yes.
We have to get back to believing in our country and in our fellow citizens. There's no ideological divide in Liberia. There is no real difference in the needs of the partisans of the various political parties. And the people that are offering solutions are not doing so adequately. We do know that Weah isn't doing what people had hoped that he would do. At the end of the day, when you're president, when you're representative, because we're not a federation, so contrary to what my in-law Senator Gray, Honorable Gray, Representative Gray is saying, he is actually the representative for the entire Republic of Liberia. He represents one group, but our legislatures make laws for the entire country, not just where they come from. So if I ask you for a law and I'm from Ganta, you are obligated to respond to me because I'm a citizen of the country that you are a representative and serving under. Until we get to those basic civil responsibilities, until we get to the point where we understand that we're citizens of not only the oldest republic in Africa, but the most profound republic in Africa, a republic that was established for a profound purpose. And until we understand what kind of responsibility that tasks us with as citizens, until we understand that, we will not rise to the occasion and enlighten ourselves, better ourselves, so we can manifest the destiny of the country that we are privileged to be from. So I'm saying that patriotism is not about jumping in the streets and worshiping politicians. Patriotism is about understanding what your country is and what your responsibility is to the country, and understand that as you choose your elected officials going forward.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. You have never disappointed. You are an excellent, excellent orator. Mr. Goya, hit me. You got 2 minutes.
Oh, wow. Well, it's been an honor to be invited to speak amongst 5 million Liberians, and I'm guessing about 99.9% of them are more educated, more qualified than me to be picked to come on this platform to speak. So I want to say I've enjoyed it. It's always a pleasure to talk about the way forward for our nation. And I've been laughing a lot because I've actually enjoyed it. It's been therapeutic, and I've learned a lot, especially from the other people on this platform with me, most especially from my sister Mrs. Famble, I haven't met before, and my brother Sharif. My baby Kumipa, he must have been in Eula forever, so I know him and well. Having said that, though, I hope my sister Mrs. Famble will allow me to piggyback off of her, because we in Liberia. What stops somebody from jumping from one political party to another? We had a classic case recently of Weah, and I'm not saying this to castigate him, but I'm saying this as an example. From the Unity Party to Dr. Cassell's party, and we don't know where next, because we lack political ideology, and so it is so fluid. It's so easy to move between political parties, and because we lack that political rigidity, that ideology that will keep us rigid, it's very difficult for our electorates to see the difference between political parties and politicians, and we have not been able to graduate from this political courtesan, because when I call a political party name, I guarantee you will associate a particular name with that. If I say ANC, you run to Cummins. If I say CDC, you run to George Weah. If I say NDPL back in the day, you run to Samuel Doe. NPP, you run to Charles Taylor. Right? We have not been able to fully articulate what our political identity gives us in our political parties. Therefore, when the political leader goes away, the political party disappears with the political leader. And because of that, we've done a disservice to our people in educating them on how to vote, how to articulate what they want, how to hold people accountable, how to make sure that people live up to the social contract they sign when you elect them. And so our biggest problem, and this is holistic, this is not George Weah, this is not starting anytime, it's been since 1822. Our biggest issue is the issue of teaching civics. It's making sure that our people are civically minded, that they can ask their legislators, and the legislators can know that they are answerable to their electors questions about where they stand on certain things. Until and unless we get to that point, even if George Weah does not win the second term presidency, we are going to have the exact same situation with whichever political party wins next, because there is nobody, ANC, UP, ALP, CDC, that can articulate what the political ideology of their political parties are. And so we have drifted from having political parties to political courts that are centered around the leaders that we call political leaders. You can see there with the Liberty Party right now that they're in court, they are going back and forth, complaining about who submitted what and what is not legit and what is legit, simply because we have not created political parties. We have created political courts. And I'll stop right there. It's been an honor being with all of you intellectuals on this platform. I laugh because it's been therapeutic, but I'm really happy to have been here to learn from a lot of great Liberians on this platform.
Your microphone is off.
The Dean of the Academy, Mr. Coney, you are next.
Well, I'm happy once again. Akimi has stuck to script. My only duty here was to make the case why George Weah deserved a second term, and I think I did that. The fact that I could do that without mentioning other names actually proved the point that the brother is on path to become a president in the second term, because he's not running in isolation. He's running relative to other factors. So I would be happy to come back here to discuss why other variables will not even make it, will not even come near George Weah. But as we said, the president is doing an incredible job amidst serious challenges. The Liberian people understand. The ordinary people understand. I think the president will continue on the path of infrastructure development, rural housing, rural electrification, the tuition-free education. The Liberian people understand these things very well. The intelligentsia elite may not understand them, but the ordinary people understand them. The construction of market, trying to create a decent environment for our people to sell and for people to buy. These things the intelligentsia don't see. They see supermarkets, they see, gorgeous shopping places, but the ordinary people go to these places and they are seeing improvement in their day-to-day life. Look, the story of George Weah is an incredible story. This guy is a pathfinder. I see most of the intelligentsia now, they know the correct diagnosis of Liberia problem. Oh, Liberia should have done this. Liberia should have done this. It's supposed to be this. Competence. But these are the people we gave our country to for decades. All they gave us was misrule. Now the pathfinder is taking the lead, and now he's illuminating the developmental needs of the country. And not only is he eliminating those needs, he's meeting those needs within the resource envelope that is available. I mean, road construction in the middle of COVID, electrification in the middle of COVID, all of these challenges, the ordinary people understand that. And this is why we believe that this experiment in grassroots governance will succeed, it will make an impact, and we very much understand the intelligentsia backlash. All we saying that just the backlash. The ordinary man is where he's not supposed to be. And those who feel that they are entitled to be to that place are latching back. But the will of the ordinary people will prevail. George Weah will be president of Liberia come 2023, and we will do it in the very first round of the election, not even second round. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sheriff.
Jala, you press one thing.
Mr. Sheriff.
Yes.
I see you are confident, you are comfortably seated, and you're ready for your closing remark. I mean, you have been tonight you have been very objective and sometimes in the middle. So I'm expecting that this closing remark is going to be illuminating. Go ahead, my brother. You got your 2 minutes.
Oh, look at you. You are so smart. So you're trying to bother me up.
You might not come and you.
You gotta watch.
Why you can't wait for it?
You gotta watch out for the CDC guys, man. But anyway, so the great Dr. Jackie Sayer, in one of her literary hour episodes, talked about the creation of a literacy and a literary culture, right? So that, to create a new Liberia, a Liberia where there is literacy and literature, right, at the apex. But you have a president who is not going to be investing in any of that anytime soon. And therein lies the problem. Because what literacy does for you is that it forms that core of educated citizenry that are able to make wise decisions. So we're talking about voting. How do you empower people to make the right decision? Literacy is the pathway to that. And of course, literature informs your worldview. I love literature. I read a lot of literature. It sharpens your worldview. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the fact that, the president goes around on visitations to, anytime there's fire somewhere, he goes there to visit. That's a good thing. But the problem with that is that's not a policy. Recently, he went to Kakata, Magibi County, where the CH Rennie Hospital got burned, and he went there to to see the citizens, to visit the area. Um, that's not a policy. Where is the fire engine? This government has not invested in fire prevention. Okay, or when fire occurs, what resources are there that the county can tap into to make sure that the fire is put out? Margibi County has no fire engine. That's a whole county. So they have to depend on, private companies to do that for them. So I think that, one of the things that the president should look at, which is really not hard to do, is to build a vibrant, fire system where you have in each county and major towns, you have fire engines and you have emergency numbers available where they can respond, timely. Liberia does not have that, so the president, keeps visiting these areas and he makes donations. That is not a policy. And so these are the things that I think that Mr. Weah needs to look at, or the next president. Maybe he doesn't have, the curiosity as he does with everything else, to make investment in that direction. So that's all I have for right now, for today. And I want to thank you guys, the hosts. I want to thank my fellow panelists for this very entertaining discussion tonight. Uh, Thank you all.
I'm muted.
Yeah, my co-host, you wanted to add your 1 or 2. I think we got 3 minutes here. Can you take your 3 minutes?
3 minutes. All right. We many times we all have contrasting views and different opinions when we come on the show, and we all have different ideologies, and we also subscribe to different worldview. What for me, I am Liberian first. I believe in my country, and I really hope that my country can grow and mature and be somewhere I can be proud of. Uh, and that is not going to happen until we have the right leadership in place. Unfortunately for us, it is clear to me that, like somebody said, I don't know who made that analogy, one of the callers or something like that. We place a man who, what bewilders me is the CDC had 12 years as the main opposition political party. They had 12 years to maneuver, to move their pieces on the board, to put things in perspective, because they knew, anybody would have known that they had the numbers, they had Montserrato. So the chances of them becoming the leaders in the country after by themselves was very, very high. There's nothing anybody can say can change that. But what astounds me is the fact that they were so woefully unprepared for the power that they fought for very, very hard to gain. They were not prepared for that power. So it's like when they drop it in their laps. Unfortunately for Weah, he was so woefully unprepared, and the pillars upon which he believed that his government would stand, those who have hijacked his presidency, particularly in the place of the Minister of State for Presidential Affairs and the Minister of Finance, they have not helped him to advance, to better himself. See, Sammy Doe was even woefully unprepared, worse off than George Weah. Well, the best thing that happened to Sammy Doe over the years was that people came around who added value to his life, who helped him, encourage him to get educated. They operated the master's program on the grounds of the executive mansion to try to teach him governance and just improve his worldview, improve his mindset, vary his perspective on things. I'm not saying he did everything right or whatever. I'm just saying there was a conscious effort by Emmanuel Buya and the rest of them, the Ideological and the rest of them around him, to make sure that this man gained knowledge and added value. The biggest thing that's happening with Weah is that he has no interest in adding knowledge and improving his perspective on things and increasing his worldview. Has definitely no interest. And every time the drainage, putting the water in the drainage or putting the drainage in the water, talking about dirt, I don't know anything about the budget. These are just snippets of what lies beneath the real iceberg. And the real iceberg is woeful incompetence and the ability to govern. So he has abdicated his role to two persons who are basically there to enrich themselves. One, we saw how he even put a slap in the face of Liberian people by building a mausoleum costing over $75,000, putting air conditioning and what was the name of the thing? Satellite or television and all that stuff in there for a person, howbeit his mom, who is precious to him, who is dead. In the midst of economic depravity and penury, our people are suffering. They are poor. They can't feed themselves. We have no agricultural policy being implemented. We have no policy that helps to improve the economy. Our economic perspectives is dead. So what are we talking here? For me, George Weah, there is no way he can become elected as second, except to steal the election, which is even far-fetched because he's going to receive a landslide defeat. That is what I want to say. Thank you guys for coming. We'll be back here on Sunday on point at 4 o'clock, and we'll be looking at very important issue. We'll be looking at history. We'll be assessing William Tolbert's legacy as opposed to all the other presidents of the Republic of Liberia. I am a William Tolbert advocate. I believe in him, and I will be defending it. And Mr. Gilman will be, and whoever else is on the show will be coming against William Tolbert. Mr. Gilman called him a pedophile. I don't know if you understood the historical context in which we existed in before 1980. For you to call a man or a pedophile when it was normal for the women in our village.
Something being normal doesn't mean it's not true. That one part, forget it. That's
If you're a killer, you're a killer. It doesn't matter the context. That's for Sunday. Now let's close out here. I know we've gone 2 minutes over. I want to read something to you.
Just because, let me just say something really quickly, George. Just because someone was a good leader does not mean he did not have flaws.
He wasn't a pedophile.
Welcome and just love everything about a leader.
He wasn't a pedophile, Cole.
He was an absolute pedophile.
No, he wasn't.
That's for Sunday. Guys, that's for Sunday. We are about to close. Mr. Goya.
Look at Balatwa and
Mr. Goya, let's close on this. It's time to let me read this to you, and that will help us here. This was written July 26, the orator of July 26, 1944, the orator of that particular Independence Day. And that was a gentleman by the name of D. Weah. And he said this, and he also from the Southeast.
Say his whole name, please. D. Weah.
Well, you know who he is. And he said this, all I have to say is, no nation has ever been able to establish and maintain a strong government with a poor, ignorant population.
Yep.
Much of our progress in the future will depend upon the rapidity with which we must educate our people. Now, that was D. Weah.
1944,
July 26th orator. Are you talking about people who lack vision? A son of the soil from the Southeast told them that, listen, if we do not invest in educating these people, 100 years from now, we will be here discussing and having the same discussion. And those who had the power refused. In fact, they made ignorance of the masses a public policy. I, Jerome Gaiman, my father and mother never spoke a word of English because there was a law in the whole Grand Bassa County. In 150 years, we had one high school. And that high school was a privileged high school for the elites until 1980. So what I'm saying here, I want to go back to the Catholic Reformation. Martin Luther told the Catholics, if we are going to make a difference in the lives of people, because the scripture said it, that every man and woman is going to have to give an account of himself to the Lord. And if this is true, then the people have to learn how to read and write the scripture.
Traditions going to become pastors.
Excuse me. The people will have to learn to read the scripture for themselves. Now, I'm coming back to this. The education, and I'm saying to us, each one teach one. The government does not have the resources to educate everybody or to put a chicken in everybody's pot. It's not possible. The government is us. We, as a people, we have to rise up to the occasion. We are talking about fire trucks today. A year ago, there were young boys in the madrasa that got burned to ashes. There were fire trucks all over the place. They could not even get to where the fire was because we do not even have a code. There's no building code. We build everywhere. The fire trucks couldn't get to there. There are no fire hydrants. What the use of having a fire truck when you cannot access water? So we have more to talk about than just George Weah, than just the political parties. We as a people, we have to examine ourselves and come ready and prepare for nation building. We have a bad foundation. We have to either redo it, but where we have now, we are only doing the edges. We are never.
We got
more to do. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming.
Next
Thursday, we are going to be here. We are all Liberians. My people, we are all Liberians. Let's go with the song.
Saturday is my birthday.
We are here to
please send my cash app. Saturday is my birthday.
Happy birthday is Saturday, and you gotta say small things.
Happy birthday! Just pin your cash app here.
Small things.
We're getting some money.
At the end of the day, we say we are all Liberian, no matter where we come from. We from the southeast, we are from the middle, we are from the north. We are all Liberian, and we're going to leave with the song. We are all Liberian. Thank you very much, and see you next week.
Thank you, folks.
We are Liberian. Liberia is our home.